must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa television broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are in Zimbabwe, in Africa, in Tripoli, in Abidjan, in Morocco, Rabat, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, Maputo, Mozambique, wherever you are in Cape Town, South Africa, wherever you are in the Johannesburg, Kigali, Rwanda, Kinshasa, thank you very much. Good morning, all of you. Wherever you are, listeners in Tripoli, those listening in Cairo, those listening in Asmara, Khartoum, Juba, Bangui, those listening in Mali, Bamako, those listening in Mogadishu, good morning. Good morning all over the whole world, those listening my headquarters in London. Good morning. Good morning, all of you. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, participants. Good morning, the people of Zimbabwe. Good morning, President Emerson Mnangagwa, the Vice President Chiwenga, the Vice President Mohadi, the government of the people of Zimbabwe, and other Zimbabweans, good morning, wherever you are. You are resilient people. I am glad that Mutuma Mawere has joined, so we can square it out with Mutuma Mawere, myself, with Mutuma Mawere. When it comes, Miriam, you are going to be the moderator. When it comes, me and Mutuma Mawere, because we want to finish it now. I've been looking for this exercise for a long time. He's the man I saw in 2000 in Sheraton Hotel. He's the man I first came and saw, and I thought this was one of the few Zimbabweans that can be Pan-African. And I hope you still have the spirit of Pan-Africanism, Mr. Mutuma. So be prepared to face me now. I have only grown in size, but the brain has even manufactured more since that time, increased several other, things on the African continent. But I'm very happy to see you on this program this morning. Viewers, first, I will allow you to say your names. Then I will tell you the topic is very interesting. I have tagged Mr. Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Britain, to watch, because he's part of the problem that Zimbabwe faces today. And don't worry, I'm part of that. I am there. They know me as a very radical Labour Party member. I stood up in Brighton and I told them, don't isolate Mugabe. Contain Mugabe. They refused to listen to me. Now see what has happened. See the mess. So I tagged Tony Blair this morning and told him, you listen to my conversation. It is going to be very interesting for the people of this Kenya and other countries and Africa who want to support Zimbabwe to listen on this question of the land reform program. And now I take this opportunity to allow the guests to introduce, starting from on my left, on my right. Sir, how are you after the professor? Can you introduce yourself briefly?
Is it me?
Yes, and speak up, please.
Okay, I am Wenceslaus Mangadza. I am a Pan-Africanist in Zimbabwe. who believes everything which has got to be in Africa is to be led by Africans.
Mr. Mangaza, Pan-African from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. Amai Abigail Mupoambi, I have introduced you now. A special, a tough talking lady from Zimbabwe. A lady who says it as it is. She has been in the NGO for a long time. She knows how human rights operate and how international agencies that are disturbing Africa today, those of Open Society Foundation of George Soros and other traitor groups of darker forces that want to dismember Africa. Abigail Upambi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you so much, viewers. My name is Abigail Mupambi. I am a human rights defender from Zimbabwe.
Thank you. Next is Saxon, a writer, himself a Pan-African from Zimbabwe. Thank you. You can introduce yourself. Say greet to the people.
Okay. My name is Saxon Juna. I'm a methodologist and also a project manager and a Pan-Africanist. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our guest, Philip Chapata, a man I saw sometime in Sheraton Hotel, but he has put on weight like me now. Philip Chapata, I am still the same guy. I've never given up on Zimbabwe, despite what Jonathan Moyo did to me. I am now laughing at him, not him laughing at me. Yes. Chapata, how are you?
I'm fine, Dr. Matsanga. How are you?
Yes, you see what Moyo did to me, came back to do him. Now he's in more chaos than myself. It was actually Mawere who used to give me some, whenever I could ask, Mawere could give me about $100. But I don't know why you went wrong. You would be back in this place. What are you doing outside there? But I will come to Mawere later on. Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Willington Mundiwa Takavarasha. Is the managing director of the CEO of mining. Mr. Takaracha, test our microphone, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matsanga. My name is Wellington Takavarasha, the Chief Executive Officer of Zimbabwe Miners Federation, a body that represents the artisanal small-scale miners.
Thank you very much. And next is, we have our own people, Sean Wesonga. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, a very good morning, Dr. Matsanga David at our political command, Senator Miriam Ogutu at our headquarters in Nairobi, and our comrades from Zimbabwe. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Professor Gerard Onyari, good morning, sir, in Nairobi.
Good morning, Dr. Matsanga, Miriam, my fellow panelists, our viewers from the rest of the world, and comrades from Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. And Karen Josephs on the coast of Indian Ocean, in the capitals, one of the capitals of Kenya, Malindi. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Matsanga, Miriam at the studio, and our fellow panelists from Zimbabwe.
Thank you. And lastly, good morning, the general headquarters of Punchline Africa in Nairobi, miles away from me. Good morning.
A very good morning to you. Good morning to our panelists, and good morning to our guest all the way from across the world, and indeed from Zimbabwe there.
I believe the viewer who was Mr. Maweri, Mutuma Maweri, has turned to be the viewer. I don't know, but I've already seen him. My cameras and my systems are very, very powerful. They pick even if you hide your ID. So thank you very much, viewers. Thank you, all of you. Let's kick-start the party. Miriam, introduce the topic.
All right, so today we're looking at the importance of land reforms in Zimbabwe. It's either farmed or mined, and just a small background there. Land reform in Zimbabwe began in 1980 with the signing of the Lancaster House Agreement as an anti-racist effort to more equitable distribute land between black subsistence farmers and the white Zimbabweans who had traditionally enjoyed superior political and economic status. Since assuming power, President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration has made a number of changes around land ownership, making a departure from what was perceived as a tough, unyielding and anti-white stance that characterized the land reforms under the late President Robert Mugabe.
Yeah, thank you very much. The land reform changes in Zimbabwe. I will give myself 3 minutes first to explain what is the land reform, what came about, why we are here, where we are, and why Zimbabwe is where it is today. I want to make my points very clear that the land reform is irreversible. That's point number one. It's irreversible. You can go to Angel Gabriel and ask him, can we reverse? He will tell you it is impossible. That's one point. Point number two. Most people who shout about how bad Zimbabwe is have never explained what the Lancaster Agreement was. Most of the young men who are on social media, on Twitter, they did not explain what it is today. It is important for us to explain the difficulties, the dangers of what it is, what's making Africa look as it is today, and what Zimbabwe has gone through. This lecture, therefore, is a lecture prepared to help the people to understand that Zimbabwe is where it is today. The Lancaster Agreement prohibited anybody from working out, from changing any word for 10 years. From 1980, 10 or 15 years. From 1980 to 1995, 1996. By that time, during Margaret Thatcher's tenure in United Kingdom, there was an agreement of a willing buyer, willing seller, compensation by the British government. After 1997, 1998, there came a British system that changed from John Major to Tony Blair, who is watching now. His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Britain, changed the policy that there were some people who were racists within the cabinet of Tony Blair who said they were also colonized, and therefore they cannot pay the colonized people who had colonized others. In a very infamous letter written by the then Secretary of International Development, Claire Short, I remember we slapped each other in the Croydon, the Brighton conference. We poured tea on each other and I left. You see, pouring tea on somebody in Britain is not a crime, as long as you have not injured him or her. So I poured my tea, my water, and I left. Claire Short decided that they would not compensate the white farmers who had colonized and taken over, since she was Irish and she was also colonized. In her letter in 1998, which I think Philip Chabata and Mangaza, you have copies. If you don't, I will send them to you. The problem of Zimbabwe then began from there. The war veterans said they went to fight for the land. They have waited. Compensation was not coming from the Commonwealth. Compensation was not coming from the colonial master. We had a problem. It is very important that people must know how land was lost. It was taken by force. Cecil Rhodes took the land by force, first of all. So those who are talking of taking it back quietly, how do you take it back when it was also taken by force? Nobody has explained to us how land was taken by force. Nobody has explained to the people of Zimbabwe, to the people of Africa, how people came to grab this land. And therefore, it is very, very important for the panel to look at all those parameters. Each of you can come up with, tell us more. What happened? Where are we today? What has taken place? What changes are there? How far is the farming? Are the people farming? Is there hope? What help do we need? This show is to bring in how African countries can come in and help in resuscitating the economy, the agriculture sector of Zimbabwe. There's quite a lot that Kenyan farmers can learn from the people of Zimbabwe on how much can be imparted, what knowledge, what can we help. So this show is not simply a showcase, but it's a showcase of African patriotism that I bring you all together to share the experiences of land. Both Zimbabwe and Kenya were colonized. Kenya was a colony. Zimbabwe was a colony. Uganda was a protectorate. Where I come from, we are protected because they found us with our king already. We had already learned how to use the Egyptian words, how to write. So they left us alone. They never colonized us. They protected us. That's why we are different in East Africa in the sense of land. Our land here in Africa, in Uganda, is different from the land in Kenya and Zimbabwe. We want to learn quite a lot from you people, and therefore allow the first person and allow the managing director of the mining sector, Wellington Mudiwa Takaravarasha, to open the floor and tell us, talk about this serious issue that is in Zimbabwe today. Mr. Wellington Mudiwa, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and for giving us this opportunity to talk about mining and also looking at the background that we've given as the Lancaster House Constitution, which began in 1918. What I would like to say is that the Lancaster House Constitution was actually trying to redress the situation of unfairness land distribution, or the land that had been taken away by the colonial regime. And so what happened thereafter, in 2000, you noticed a lot of land invasion, where we now have the majority, or we had the majority of the Zimbabweans getting 99 lease contracts with the government, which was giving them land rights to occupy and actually do communal farming and also have homesteads either as A1 farmers or as A2 farmers. So we're looking at the A1 farmers or the A2 farmers, which are middle scale farmers, which are about 13% and 82% held by most miners, farmers. So what has happened now when we are talking about this land reform and its impact, it is actually to do with the land allocation. That is now when the miners want to go and peg a particular claim in a farm, there is now conflict over land use. Somebody wants to use the land for farming and one person wants to use the land for mining. So most people that got land after the 2000, and these most areas that we can talk about were actually very, very rich, but still very rich in terms of mineral resources, be it gold or across all the minerals that we have in the country. Most of these minerals are found in these farms. So what we'd like to talk about here is actually that there has been a number of disputes. There has been a number of these disputes have actually spilled over to the courts because somebody believes that if he is the owner of the farm, he has got a 99 lease contract, then the person who comes to look for mineral rights, he has no rights to actually do that. Apparently, what is happening is that the Mines and Minerals Act takes precedence over farming, and such that, but the people that have been given this land are people that are powerful. Now, when I'm talking about being powerful, the height is people that are those people that got the land rights after the 2000 invasions, were people that have got high posts in government offices and also across board. So when you're looking at these disputes, so at times it becomes very, very difficult for people to counter or during to win with the court system. Let me just explain what we mean by when we're looking at farming. It actually, the farming people would go maybe not more than 30 centimeters underground, and the miner then now goes underground and maybe to as far as deep as 130 meters downwards. But the conflict there, it has spilled that they do not understand each other. One, because of grazing land, two, because of paddocks, and three, because there's no mutual understanding that will happen between the farmer and the miner. So we have been trying to engage the Minister of Lands and the Minister of Mines and Mining Development so that there is cohabitation between the miner and the farmer. When we are talking about cohabitation, is that these people need to understand each other, and the miner proceeds with these mining activities without necessarily being harassed or being taken to court, because the farm owner would simply say he does not want the person to proceed with mining. The requirements of the Mines and Minerals Act, actually, when we are doing pegging, what we call pegging and prospecting, is that you need to consult the farmer first. So when you consult the farmer first, it has been seen that the farmer may not want to be consulted. Even the papers that we talk about, the environment management papers, that is environment impact assessment reports, when you're writing an environment impact assessment report, you definitely need to have the consent of the farmer for them to be able to issue with the environment impact assessment license. So this has seen that a number of people, a number of farmers would not want to actually assent or sign a consent paper to say somebody should proceed with mining. And I think the first years, the year 2003 up to 2006, people had difficulties in getting or accessing these EIAs, especially the consultants. I think the Environment Management Agency had to bypass the involvement of the farmer. But this does not mean then when we have people bypassing that, then it means there is no cohabitation between the farmer and the miner. So my input here is actually looking at the land reform, which yes, the government people or the indigenous people actually benefited when I'm looking at the A1 and A2 farmers, especially the A1 from the side of the indigenous people. But now this did not actually go down well for those people that would want to join mining. Remember these places when it was actually after the 1980s, before the 1980s, those areas were written trespassers will be prosecuted. It was areas that we were not supposed to go into. And now, after the 2000, or especially after the what we call the Economic Structural Adjustment Program, a number of people joined mining in Zimbabwe. even now. So mining is the only recourse in an economy that may be having difficulties. We've seen a number of people that have joined artisanal small miners. When we're looking at, let's look at the numbers that are involved in mining in Zimbabwe. We're looking at about plus or minus 1.5 million people that are involved in artisanal mining activity. And I'm talking about illegal mining activities, and also about 30,000 miners that are properly registered in terms of the Mines and Minerals Regulation Act. And 90% of these people actually do have their operations in places that we are talking about, which is the land reform areas. So there has been a cat and mouse situation between the farm owner and the miner in terms of the operations, where the farm owner may say block roads or do anything that would make the miner not enjoy mining activities at that particular farm. So we think we are heading somewhere. We have had meetings, we have engaged the Ministry of Agriculture, we have engaged the farmers' unions so that they understand that the role of the miner is only to extract the minerals, and then the government benefit from that particular mineral, whether be it gold or be it tantalite. But now, because mining is not seasonal, it's on a daily basis, as long as they've catered for. And what is more important is to actually, when I'm talking about cohabiting, is to mitigate against any environmental degradation and environmental cost. So I think my major issue that I'd like to talk about here this time is that there has been very much conflict between the miner and the farmer. I thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, viewers. You have heard, and the viewers and Mr. Wellington, we thank you very much for that explanation, and I hope the farmers and the miners in Kenya will understand, and the world and Africa will understand what it means, what is going on the land reform programs in Zimbabwe. My next guest is, I can welcome Mr. Nyoni. Mr. Nyoni, how are you, sir? Long time. We can't hear you. Yeah, unmute. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's see Philip Chabata. What are your contributions? What do you think the land reform program in Zimbabwe, how has it benefited the black community, the people who took over these farms, the people who are on these farms? What much added value since the farms were taken over? What do you think? What is the true picture on the ground?
Okay, thank you very much for that invitation. Just also to mention that right now we're in the process of contributing to a Zimbabwe land policy with the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture and Water and Rural Resources, alongside assistance from FAO. And part of that is also reviewing just what has gone on with the land reform in terms of has it given people security of tenure? We also given people the wherewithal by way of infrastructure for them to be able to be productive on the land. And so much as the fact that in 2000, people accessed land, the challenges in making it productive, in the sense that the programs that have been put ahead for farmers to access have not always been easily accessible, especially to the smaller scale farmers. Some A2 farmers perhaps might have had, but by and large, agricultural performance has been below par, even for those who have recently, accessed the land. And part of the reasons are that, there are various farmers. There are farmers and farmers. I mean, a number of people got onto this land without necessarily proper training per se or commitment. It's one thing to see one guy being able to produce, and me also just aspiring to be a producer by way of, being on the land. So that has impacted negatively on the actual productive utilization of the land. So in a sense, the land reform is a good initiative, but it needs to be well supported. In a sense, there are cases where hand-holding of new farmers is necessary. But again, as we're saying, in terms of infrastructure, there has been need to provide the wherewithal by access roads that make it easy for people to market their produce. Also, social infrastructure like schools and clinics that have to be nearby. It's one thing for you to be worried about going to the field, but then also worrying about where will your children go to the school or access medical or health facilities.
All right.
In a nutshell.
All right. And doctor, before before you continue. Yeah, before you continue the next question, please, to our guest, they're being asked to adjust their headroom and not to be very close to the camera because we need to take a good shot. Yes, they should adjust the headroom. Yes, so they're not cut off at the chin. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nyoni. The question that I put to all of you is recently there was this compensation that has brought ripples to very many of us. We got confused, or even if people here said, what is going on? Nyoni and Chabati and others who are on the panel, anybody who can take on this, the compensation I was told is for few people who lost, not for every white farmer commercial coming back to take land. That's how I understood. So we need to hear from you, because for us in Kenya and other parts, Uganda and other countries, we are saying, hey, what is the problem again? So Chabati, have a go on it now.
Dr. Matsanga, thank you so much. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'm doing well and I'm still strong.
Thank you, my brother. I can see that you're getting younger and younger. I don't know what you are.
I am clocking 64. This year I will be 65. Next month in October, I will celebrate 65 years on planet Earth. So, but Amen. God has said, let me stay. Yes.
So I can say I have 5 more years to live after you are gone, because I just turned 60 this year, and I'm so excited because when you are talking about 65, I know I still have 5 more to go.
You better learn my tactics.
Now I can't. I have to learn so fast because
when I come to Zimbabwe, I will teach you. First, you must be a soldier. Like me, I'm a military man by background. So I do all those things. I wash my clothes, I iron my clothes, I make my bed, I hoover my house. I don't wait for my wife to hoover my house.
Oh, that's great. I need to learn that one, especially the hoovering of the house, but I can cook also.
So let's come to the point. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chimata and I are great friends. So when we meet on this show, he has missed me for a long time. And he has not seen me for almost 20 years. So it's normal. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Let me just start by saying to our panelists, you're a great team. You have a great team of panelists there. And thank you for all the contributions. But I want to say thank you for standing up and fighting for Africa for all these years. One thing I've learned from you is that you never give up. You keep fighting. And when I grow up and when I become like you, I want to keep on fighting. We are talking about Zimbabwe and the land reform and what has happened on the years and what it has contributed. I want to thank you, Doctor, for bringing especially the continent together to begin to think through some of these things. And we are so grateful to the friends that Zimbabwe has all over, even in Europe and in America and in other parts of the world, in Asia. We are so grateful for these friends. A bit of a background would help us to realize that Zimbabwe changed names after it became, at one time it became Rhodesia. And after they had taken our land and it became the land of the Queen, in 1966, UDI, Unilateral Declaration of Independence, when the waves of waters of freedom were sweeping over Africa, the then Rhodesians decided to declare a UDI and did not want to include the blacks on one man, one vote, and also the reforms that were coming. And this necessitated them to declare what is called the UDI. The UDI means Unilateral Declaration of Independence, which Rhodesians, then the whites, did and ceased from being part of the British colony. It did hate the Queen. I know that all of you know that. It did hate the Queen, and especially Wilson, who was then Harold Wilson, who was then the Prime Minister of Britain. And remember what they did then. The first ever sanctions, economic sanctions, to be imposed by Britain and to be imposed by Commonwealth and to be imposed by United Nations were imposed on Rhodesia. And Rhodesia became an illegal entity. Underline this word, illegal entity. According to the United Nations, Commonwealth, and Britain. An illegal entity can never give a legal document. I want you to get this very clear. An illegal entity can never give a legal document, never. So Rhodesia was considered an illegal entity. And they then decided to parcel out this land, which is in contention, and which caused us to go to war. By then, the war for independence had started in as early as 1962. You will recall that our president Emmerson Mnangagwa joined the struggle then in 1962, and they were possibly the first group of trained cadres that were trained in Egypt, and then came back to Tanzania and went to China for further training after the split of ZAPI and ZANU. But understand that this is now when it came in 1966. The land became the land. It ceased from being the land of the Queen's land. It became the land for the government of the day, which was the government of Rhodesia. It was never an individual land. It was now the land of the government of the day. As the struggle continued and the struggle got tense, I think there was connivance towards the end. Especially, I'm not sure the exact dates, when the Rhodesians and the British connived during the night to give title deeds to individuals and moving them from the government to individuals, and the land then became individual titles, because they wanted to borrow money from the banks or something like that, but we are not sure. But I know, I've read somewhere, I cannot pinpoint. I was trying to go through some notes. In 1979, in September, title deeds were dished out even to people that were not born. Names were just given. These title deeds, remember, they were being given by the Rhodesian government, which was an illegal entity. If we don't understand and we don't underline those issues, we will continue to argue about the land reform in Zimbabwe. They had illegal documents which were given by an illegal government, which was labeled illegal by the United Nations, by the Commonwealth, and by the British. In 1979, then the war for independence was being waged, and I'm privileged and I'm so proud that during that time, in 1977, war came in the area where I was, and as a young man at 17, I joined the struggle. And when I joined, it was not because of hatred to the white people only. Yes, there were a lot of injustices. We were not allowed to come into towns. You needed a pass to be walking in town. But that was not the only thing that the reason. One of the reasons was we needed our land back. All the blacks were now put into what was called the tribal trust lands, whereby you had a DA that you had to report to. I remember those difficult days and difficult situations. Anyway, most of the people were removed from their from rich areas and put into tsetse infested areas like Gokwe area, where there was a lot of tsetse flies. That's where most of the blacks were moved from their rich areas. And if you had cattle, say you had 50 cattle, they would take 47, you'd be left with only 3. And much of them, they'll be given to the then farmer. Some of these farmers or some of these settlers had come from Britain and were being given, had been given during the Queen, they were given as compensation for their participation in World War I and in World War II. And they would ask for compensation. They'll be taken to places like, especially Zimbabwe. Anyway, in 1979, a number of things happened during the struggle, and we were moving towards Harare, the capital city. In the hills, in the mountains, and the young people were moving from all over. They were crossing over into Mozambique to pick up arms. Some of them came back without even handling any arm, but the desire for freeing our country was there. And this is what caused then the British and the Rhodesians to sit together to connive. I remember Smith saying that he would even rather leave his jacket ruling instead of giving a black man. But when Harare was put into darkness, and the petrol tanks were bombed in Harare, and they realized the war was now in the capital city, they quickly got together and realized the game was over. So they connived. They agreed for the Lancaster House Conference. The Lancaster House Conference was there to persuade and to make an arrangement to cease the war.
Chabati, thank you very much for the background. You have brought our background of the struggle in Zimbabwe. Most of the people on the panel, especially viewers, might not be knowing the background. I thank you for that. Hold your thoughts. I want now to be gender parity. I can see ladies are saying, why men only? Because they now think this is a struggle. Abigail Mupambi, can you take the floor, please? Abigail, I can't hear you. You have switched on. You have unmute. Miriam.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam.
Yes, I can hear you as we wait for Abigail to.
Abigail, okay. Yes. Can we bring in Mutuma Mawere? We want another view. Is Mutuma Mawere there? Unmute. Mutuma Mawere is.
Hello.
Hello, Mutuma Mawere, my great friend. Good. Where are you? You seem to be in the dark.
Hello.
Hello, Mutuma. How are you?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go on.
How are you, doctor?
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you very much, comrade.
How are you?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, just go on.
Yes, we hear you now.
Mm.
Okay, long time. Land is a subject that we can talk about, but it requires a context.
Yes.
What is land?
Yes.
Is it object or property? What makes an object property? And if we understand what property is, then some of the background noise would evaporate. There are many people who think an object given free to all and common to all is property. When you look at the animal kingdom, there's land. in the affairs of human beings, there is also land. But in the animal kingdom, land is just an object to be used. So to me, land can become property where you have laws, where you have order and structure of human beings. So land is just one of many gifts of nature. And when you put a government, what is the relationship between a government and land? So prior to independence, you had white people who assumed that land itself could be divided by race. And that was a wrong understanding, but it had consequences. So common sense, logic, and reason have nothing to do with race. There are white people who don't have sense that is common. There are white people who don't reason. And equally, there are black people who are not logical. So it doesn't matter what race, skin color you carry, but when you begin to introduce race in the allocation of resources created outside the creativity and ingenuity of human beings, you always get distortions. So in the case of Zimbabwe, I can talk about myself. My company had 8 farms purchased from different people. They were all taken. No compensation at all. And if you look at those farms today, they are not producing. The people who took over the farms, some of them did not have the necessary resources to be able to make good, to convert land into property. So the assets that were there, dams, pipes, engine to draw water, to transmit it, they were all wasted in the process. This is just one example. It doesn't speak of other people who have made good on the land. And I would be the agriculture, not subsistence agriculture, but that the two can be complementary. There are people who didn't have access to land, couldn't afford it. But in terms of any battle, when you fight a battle, you need generals in that battle. Who are the generals of this quest for land into property? Averaging everybody and reducing everybody to a small-scale subsistence farmer where capital is not structured, rationed. And the people who came from Europe, they didn't come with return tickets. They came to settle. And settle they did. And they made the place where they settled home. But right now, in terms of security of tenure, what should happen, farm size, I had a conversation on the same subject with President Mugabe for about 4 hours, wherein he was trying to understand what was this model that we're trying to introduce. And at the end of the meeting, he confessed that the issues that I had brought forward, actually him personally had not reflected on them. What is property? And how do you incentivize somebody to invest long term for 99 years, even if the lease is not given, only to lose it after 10 years, only to die after 5 years? and that property you have created on that land, it becomes subjected to public property and assigned to somebody else without recognition, that without that incentive, nobody would invest, whether black or white, in something they can't harvest. So it's not a linear thing where people, I know Philip was talking about UDI and what happened. I think we can go back, but we are in 2020 now. When we look at the land question and who is occupied in terms of thought and action, in terms of architecture, let's say it's black architecture of ownership. Even if you look at the continent on issues of agriculture, issues of property in agriculture, how many can you count, Dr. Masanga, and say these are the generals of Africa in terms of providing the kind of direction or the kind of provocation so that others may follow? Or we are talking about the politics of God's creation. Who should be entitled to call land mine or yours, and we all die, but in the middle of it, there is food that needs to be produced from the same land. So finally, I asked President Mugabe, I said, okay, where are we getting our soya bean? And this was in relation to Chiangwa. Chiangwa got a farm. Then in the midst of it, we had a farm management plan where we were using some farms to produce. So he got wind of it. He quickly went and got another offer letter on the land that we were working on. So I got a call almost midnight saying, Mr. Chiangwa is now the new owner of the farm. And I went to Miko's hotel to confirm, indeed, he had an offer letter on the specific farm. So that led me to negotiate with him how best we can get access to that land. He said, if you want to farm, you have to pay me $50 million then, which is like a rental fee upfront. So we agreed, we paid him that money, we started farming. Then he went to the president, I don't know where they met. The then president says, President, I'm the largest soya bean farmer in the country. And I wanted you to come and officiate the opening of my farm. So the president agreed in principle. Then on his way to Bulawayo, he then asked the Minister of Agriculture then, Made, and Chombo, who was the Minister of Local Government, have been invited by the chairman of Mashonaland West to come and officiate the farm. They both said, no, Mr. President, I don't think Chiangwa is the farm. I said, but what do you mean? He says, no, Chiangwa sold his farm to Mawere. So the crop that he wants to show you is Mawere's crop. Not his. So the president then asked Lawrence Kamwi to say, can you phone Chiangwa to confirm whose crop is it that you are asking me to come and see? That's the only time I knew of this development. And then Chiangwa called me to say, how do I respond? I said, respond to what? Said the president is asking, whose crop is it? And I said, but how does the president get to know whose crop is it? Why is the question relevant? Then he told him, he had already told him that he should be proud of land reform. And there are generals who are producing soya bean on 700 hectares. Then he was now at a loss as to what to say. So he solicited my advice. Then I said, no, Chiangwa, the soya bean doesn't belong to the landowner. It belongs to all the value players in the supply chain, including diesel has a percentage of that crop. The road has a percentage of that crop. So I said, okay, let me show you the income statement of a farm. And you see the expenses associated with generating so many tons of soya. So we then drafted the response which he sent to the president. And the president says, no, this is not Chiangwa. And they started their own argument there. So it turned out, Jim says, no, please check whether Mawere is not involved in this response. So the question then came up. So we had to seek refuge at Vice President Muzenda to explain this whole nightmare now that had been created, that somebody got a farm, chose not to farm, and outsourced it for a fee. But this was against the spirit of the land reform. So I'm just giving you one anecdote. We have many of them.
Yes.
And the reality of it is not told. We all celebrate without facts. Some celebrate in a helicopter where they are looking over land, and some celebrate with a rear view mirror where they are looking in hindsight at what should be the ideal and not the reality. So when you look at Zimbabwe in 2020 and say, where are the men and women who talk truth to power on land matters, you'll be shocked that a lot of them are parasitic, they are observers, spectators, with no personal experience except pointing a finger, whether it's white. So those are the reflections I can give you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mutuma, my friend Mutuma Mawere. It is a long time since we last met. It looks you still have, there's one thing that you have talked, and which I can, summarize: east or west, south or east or north, the land will never return to the original grabbers. It is gone. And I believe the people on the panel here will agree with me. Very many of you Zimbabweans will agree with me that the stage that you took, the decision you took to take back what belonged to you will never be reversed. My friend Mutuma Mawere is an academic. He's a very senior guy I respect in academics of calculation of fuel, diesel, and this is for human, this is the economics of Museveni and other people who microeconomy, economy of the land, that can come later. But the moment is here. A black guy, 18 million black Zimbabweans. Not all of them might have got the land. But the land was given out. There are some people who used to have Christmas in Harare, Easter in Harare, every public holiday in Harare. They didn't have anywhere to go. But since this land reform came, some people have somewhere to go. Some people drive to go out. Harare remains a ghost town. People have gone into the rural areas. Yes, the inequalities are there, but the overall vision of the land distribution was to have as many people as possible, as many, whether yellow, black. I am not also part of this group that says white or black. No, I am I live in a global world. A heart is a heart. Blood is blood. Therefore, there are bad white people and there are bad black people. But what is they are joining the Zimbabweans today? They have their land. Mawere, you are a Zimbabwean. You might have had differences with people. And now you and I were the same age. And we need to be lecturing each other now. Time comes for you to forgive. Forgive. Forget. Look at me. Look at me. If I tell you what I've gone through, including losing my own father and my own wife in the hands of a dictatorship. But I've never, whenever I meet President Museveni, I say, hallelujah, how are you? We shall meet. There is a governance somewhere up there where we shall be put on a weighing machine, but not here. So what I want to advise Mutuma, these things don't carry the anger. Be like me. Be like me. Who knew that you would meet Kaskwere in Johannesburg? Who knew you would meet Moyo in Nairobi? Buying sukuma in Nairobi market. You and I, we have gone through these problems. Whenever I used to come to Harare, you used to be there on the round table with me. And we used to make a lot of argument over who is who. But you saw how Moyo was planning to kill people. Even planned to finish me. You were even very, very scared to hear that I am still alive. But today, I've forgiven Moyo. When I meet him in the streets going to buy his kumawiti, God bless him. It is a lesson to learn. And I want Zimbabweans to learn a lesson, to forgive, to do the reconciliation that Mugabe did after taking over power from Ian Smith. Mugabe was the first leader. ZANU-PF was the first party on this planet to do reconciliation, not Mandela. Not Mandela. And I want to tell you, Zimbabweans who are here, when Mugabe died, I struggled I had vowed to cry, and I cried. And I made my way into Zimbabwe myself. Most of you did not see me. Only those who are very keen, like Manganza saw me. I came there to make sure that I had sent off a hero. But when Mandela died, I did not cry. And I don't want to tell you why here. I have my reasons. I like patriotism. So it is good I've seen my friend Mawere. Now I'll persuade you to follow my spirit. We are going towards sunset. Our children have grown now. They are the ones to fight better place. But let's leave them in a better place when we have no vengeance. You see, those who might have harmed you or wronged you could be harmed tomorrow. You never know. I have seen this in my 36 years in exile. I have never wronged anyone. Even those who even took my property, when they meet me, they want to run and hide under their cars. But I said, don't worry. How are you? Come, let's have a drink. So please forgive, learn to forgive, to reconcile, to redeem yourselves. That's why Zimbabwe, and I want to hit this point to leave you people to discuss. If you don't have the spirit of forgiveness, you will never have the spirit of accepting that you are defeated in elections. That's why you see Jamis are still arguing about the elections which took place 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. The Supreme Court ruled you can't go anywhere. For us Ugandans, we have a different style. And we have told Besigye, if there is a man in Africa who has been beaten every day, more than anybody else, is Besigye. To the tune that his face has turned from brown to black. But we have told him, after the Supreme Court has announced its verdict, don't oppose the Supreme Court, because you are also breaking the law. We don't. And that's why for us, we've left it until people will make mistakes. They make mistakes on their own. So I want to preach reconciliation, redemption. It leads to healing. Chabata was asking, why am I still young? Because I've reconciled. I have healed, Chabata. I've healed. Look at me. I've healed. And I'm doing some other things, not mourning. So Mawere help Zimbabwe to have sanctions removed. Don't increase the sanctions. Tell those people who are yapping, hamburger eating guys around South Africa and the other places to remove sanctions. Don't encourage them. East or West, home is best, your country is the best. So, my brother, Mawere, I'm very happy, first of all, to know that you're still alive. We are the same age almost. So, struggle on, keep, but forgive. 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 Forgive and heal. That's all. Now, Chabata, I know you want to answer Mawere, but let me bring a woman first. Mupambi, the land reform, and I hope Miriam is taking some notes. She will fire some questions to the panel. Abigail, your perception, what do you think about the entire land reform?
Thank you so very much. I hope you are hearing me now.
Yes.
Allow me probably. I want to dwell much as a human rights defender on this topic. I hope I will do justice, because when we talk about the land reform, at the time the land reform was introduced in Zimbabwe, there was serious noise over human rights. When the land was linked to human rights, and in particular human rights abuse. But I also don't want to continue to say the land was taken over. I want to revisit a chapter when I say the land was retained back to its original owners. So that then draws me back to a point where I want to speak to the world about how did we, as the people of Zimbabwe, lose our rights first 1888, over a century ago. What really transpired? Because I myself am coming from Matabeleland North, I'm coming from Inyati, I'm coming from Bobi area in Matabeleland North, where these all things started. Back in 1888, when the settlers arrived in Zimbabwe, they managed to cheat the then King Lobengula through the right concession, and three of the guys on behalf of Cecil John Rhodes, including Charles Rudd and James Rashford Maguire and Francis Thompson, signed and the right concession with King Lobengula At that particular time, there was no this education system in this country because the very first school, which is in High School, the first school to be built in Zimbabwe is in my area. It was not yet there. And they treated the then illiterate King Babura to sign the right concession. They were telling him the opposite of what they then did. So land belonged to us way back before the settlers came into Zimbabwe back in 1888. So where were the human rights then? If we are to introspect, where was the then rule of law by that time? Because as human rights defenders, we seek to understand and look back and say, at what point did the whites, the settlers became conscious about human rights? And at what point did land begin in particular to be defined as rights? Because then the humans, we, the native Zimbabweans, we were in this country, we were here before they arrived. So it then becomes unfair to begin to talk about land rights is so loud because the land is now being returned to its original owners. Allow me also to take you through that. After the Rights Convention in 1888, there were various policies which were put in place without consultation. And the right to this day speaks to democracy. Democracy is the say of the majority. We were the majority. They were just a handful at arrival. How did they manage to grade our land to a section of all these policies, which include the Land Husbandry Act, which is the Land Apportionment Act, making sure that the native Zimbabweans are pushed to some infertile land at some corner. They grab the majority of the land using such policies. There was no consultation whatsoever. If ever we are to be tempted to talk about democracy, rule of law, and rights. So you would understand that even what triggered the first Chimurenga back in the 1890s, it was the issue of the land. What triggered the second Chimurenga? It was the issue of the land. So the land reform came about to correct a long-lasting error in this country. I'm actually impressed to say, if you listen to part of the panel, which include Mr. Mawere to this day, the dispute that he is bringing forward through his case and other people who spoke from the issue of from the side of small-scale miners, it's now an issue on the issue of corruption, the issue of unfair distribution, the issue of conflict. But it's clear that we are now in possession of our land, which is the major goal, the major thing that we are identified with as Zimbabweans. So I want us as Zimbabweans to begin to, before we even talk of the disputes that we are finding ourselves in, because we now have land on our side, which the topic said you either farm or mine. So we must begin by appreciating the first point that we are already on the other side of problems. Many countries, I will talk about South Africa, they haven't managed to attempt later on to have identity with their own land. So our problems now are now inwards. If anything, we now want to find a mechanism of dealing with the disputes that are involved, be it farmer-miner conflict, farmer and miners conflict, and the issue of corruption, which is a totally different subject altogether. But at this
Sorry, sorry there. We seem to be having a problem there from Pambi's signal there, but a couple of issues there that she's raising, Doctor, particularly.
I am here to appreciate to see the way it went and the way into the world. Can I?
Yeah, we seem to be having a bit of a problem with the audio there. I don't know if you can just revert to audio. See if it will make a difference. We have a problem with your reception. Yes. But Doctor, as we wait there for Pambi to fix that, a couple of issues she's brought up, and that is there was no consultation when this land was being taken away from the natives, and so she does not understand why this conversation has to happen as to why now. There has to be a manner in which, they're questioning why this land was returned to the natives there in Zimbabwe. So they're saying now Zimbabwe is on the other side of the problem. So whatever they're dealing with now is internal. So that is something that she says the government can deal with. I don't know, Saxon, are you still there? Saxon, yes, are you still there? Yes. Could you respond to some of those issues that have been, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the issue for land is critical, as all the resources in the world are either mined or found. I think historically, the West colonized Africa to get access to the resources which are in the land. There's nothing in the world that doesn't come from land. Talk of it to the missile battery systems, we talk of aeroplanes, we talk of what we eat. Everything comes from land. So the move that government of Zimbabwe did was essential, and it empowered everyone. As before the land reform, 80% of the land was owned by 4,000 people, whereas 12 million were only less than 20% of the land, which was unfair. And for the record, the communal farmers were the ones who were feeding the populace, as they're the ones who were growing maize. So the land reform was necessary, and it's important in the sense that it empowered the locals to have access to their own resources. Nowhere in the world will you see a foreigner owning the resources. The reason why the West were up in arms is because some of these farmers were actually doing illegal mining on these farms, and they're not declaring the minerals that they were exporting to their mother countries. For instance, Britain has got reserves, the gold reserves, but doesn't have gold mines. These were the looted minerals from Africa. And the move that was taken by the government of Zimbabwe in 2000, after the British reneged on the Jonah Conference in 1998, was necessary, and people now are empowered. A lot of people now, they're owning mines, they're owning now farms, they cannot produce for their own food. So the land reform is important in the sense that it empowered the local guys. And the reason why it has been condemned is because they've noticed that in Asia, the land reform was a success in South Korea, in Thailand, and they wanted to make sure that the Zimbabwean economy was going to scream to show the Latin Americans and Africans that never dared to take away the land from the whites. As if these guys brought land from their foreign countries. No African owns land in Britain. No African owns land in America. The slave trade was as a result of taking the blacks to work on the land. I just want to highlight how important land is. The 2003 war in Iraq, the bombing of Libya was because they wanted to access the resources which are in the land, which are the minerals. So the move that was taken by Zimbabwe angered the former colonizers and their Eastern allies that this was going to open the eyes of the third world people that they had to own their own resources, their own God-given resources. For instance, DRCs with 90 minerals of the economy world, but they don't have peace. They are destabilized by the same Westerners. Zimbabwe, where the sanctions imposed after we took our land, as we possess 60% minerals of the economy value. Of late, we have, for the record, with the second largest platinum reserves, with the fifth largest uranium, the fifth largest lithium reserves. And lithium is the mineral of the next generation. Most fuels will be powered, most cars will be powered by electric cars. So That's the real reason why the issue of Zimbabwe has been amplified by the West and demonized, is because they discovered that we had done what other Africans had failed to do. And this was going to create a veiled fire across the continent and the entire third world. Right now in Latin America, people are still fighting over lands. Thank you.
All right, very well. Doctor, are you there? All right, very well. So I think that we can have our...
Miriam,
yes.
Let's speak another lady, Mrs. Takavaracha. I believe Mrs. Takavaracha is on. You want to say something before we come?
Yes, I am on. And yes, I do agree with the first speaker, Mr. Chabata and Abigail, on the issue of land. And maybe what I can just bring in, just the part, is from where Mr. Chabata left that at the Lancaster discussion, the whole issue was about land. And I think they took almost 2 to 3 weeks discussing on land alone. And then, based on what Samora Machel and Kaunda, who were hosting the freedom fighters, said to say the war was a bit expensive, try to compromise. The leaders agreed then to say from 1980 to 1990, they were not going to touch land, but they were going to go for willing buyer, willing seller, that the whites were going to be prepared to let go some of the land, and then the government would then allocate the land to the blacks. But come 1990, not much was done because land was a political power. Land was the wealth of Zimbabwe. And with controlling that land, the whites still had an influence in the political arena of Zimbabwe. And then from 1990, Zimbabwe was now free to start now fighting for proper reallocation of land. But the problem also is that in 1990, Mandela was discharged from prison and South Africa was discussing, and that was the only country in Africa that was left to be independent. And the frontline states discussed with Zimbabwe to say, put this on hold a bit until we sort out the issue of South Africa. And then in 1994, when South Africa became independent, that's when Zimbabwe started to push through now the issue of the land. In 1997, the government designated about 800 farms that were not very productive as such, and they were carefully identified in order not to hate agriculture, because agriculture was the backbone of our economy. So the government tried by all means not to touch the prime land. And after designating the 800 farms, it was transparent, and they told the whites that if you don't have any farms, if we've taken your farms from these 800, we'll get into the interior, ask a farmer with 3 and say, give up 1. No farmer will be left without land. No white farmer will be left without land. But then the farmers reacted on the 14th of November. They went in and withdrew their foreign currency accounts on a Friday, and our dollar crashed. And by the time the government went in on Monday, they tried to stabilize, but the damage had been done. And ever since, there's been war between whites and Zimbabweans. And they also, in Britain, the government had changed from conservative to Labour. And the Labour Party was saying, we are not preview. We are not indebted to what the Conservative Party agreed to say they were going to pay for the compensation of farms. They refused. And so what the government could do was, we were in the process of trying to change our constitution, was to put in the constitution now that the government of Zimbabwe is not liable to compensate. It's not the responsibility of the government of Zimbabwe to compensate farmers for the improvements which they've done, which they did on the farms that were taken, that they'd taken from the blacks before. And so that's when all these things, then in 2000, then the government forcibly got in, but it was no longer well arranged and all that. But what we can say as of today is that the blacks have gotten their land. What we simply need to do is to come together as Zimbabweans and work our way to make this land productive now. I think that's what I can.
Thank you very much. Make this land productive now, because it will never reverse. You can't think of reversing. Whether whoever takes over power in Zimbabwe, the land cannot reverse. It's gone, it's gone. Let's think of that way forward. So, thank you very much. I want now to ask Mr. Magaza, open up your phone and tell us, please strictly, I'll restrict you to 1.5 minutes to 2.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I wanted to give 2 examples. First of all, to instill the notion of the importance of land to the people. Right. I want to cite 2 examples, which I am quite privy to. I've got my grandfather. He is now late. He joined this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
He
continue.
Yes, he joined the second. He was conscripted to join the Second World War and went fight for the Queen. He went side by side and fought the war in Europe. And then when they came back to Zimbabwe, they were divided now. The whites were asked to seek for the best pieces of land in Zimbabwe, and then they were provided with the resources and everything which they needed to start farming. And then my grandfather, the surprising part is that he was black. He was given a card to go and look for employment at any company which wasted the Union Jack, which was the British flag. So what does that mean? It means that the black person was turned to become an employee, and then the white person or the white former soldier was empowered with land. We show that land is something which is very important. So meaning to say that until he retired, he was just an employee. He was never empowered. Whereas when we look at his white counterpart, already he was a multi-millionaire because of the empowerment which had been bestowed upon him. And then the second example which I would like to give is that my mother, she's still living. She used to stay between the 2 towns of Kwekwe and Kadoma. That place is rich. The soils are very rich, and then there are plenty minerals buried in the barriers of the earth. They say that they were removed from those pieces of land. There came a backward track some time back after Second World War, and then they were thrown right into the jungles of Gokwe, whereby all their cattle perished, and some of the cattle which were left, they were taken away by the whites. The reason is that blacks were disenfranchised, whereby the whites were promoted so that at least their lives would become better. And then blacks were tend to become the workers of the whites so that they will help the whites get richer at the expense of the black people. And then the black people will continue being laborers. Now come our independence. Now come this land reform. It is now important to note that the tables have turned. It is the black person who had been disadvantaged, who has now been empowered by the resource, the infinite resource, which is land. And so, which means we should be in a position to be proud of that and make sure that at least we use that land productively. We have got some guys who have turned out to be instant millionaires today, who have been able to mine and achieved a lot through mining, meaning to say they have been able to use the land and the resources which have been provided by government productively for the benefit of the nation. And then there are those farmers who are farming for the benefit of the nation, which is very good for us as Zimbabweans. So the land reform, we shall continue to say that it is reversible, it is irreversible, and it is there and has benefited the ordinary people of Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. You have finished your 2 minutes exactly. And there is Marcia. Marcia lady, another lady called Marcia. Before I come to Mr. Chapati. Marcia, you want to say something? We don't want to leave you behind. Then there is Munyarazi. Do you want to say something? If you want to say something, okay. Yes, Munyarazi from. Okay, Munyarazi says she's just watching. Okay, thank you very much. I want now to shift gears. And I want to bring in Professor Onyari from the Kenyan side before I come to Chebati, then Nyoni, then give a parting shot to Mr. Takavarasha, because you said you are running out for a meeting. And by then, the time is also our satellite. Zimbabwe needs almost 5 hours. We can discuss until the cocks come back home, or the cows come back home. But let's look at then Karen Joseph. Then we come to Shoni Wesonga in that order. Let's hear Professor Gerard Onyari. You are conflict resolution manager.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga,
yes,
for this important topic we are discussing. The land question still remains a problem to most African countries. And one thing which we need to agree, I agree with you, that we need to move on as a continent. Our land was forcibly taken. There is still land injustice in Kenya, land inequality in Kenya. But what we need to do, Dr. Masanga, it happened. We have agonized for too long. It is time for now to start organizing the continent and we move forward. We are discussing in Zimbabwe. You have heard from the horse's mouth what happened. They went into negotiation table, they discussed rangas, and then they agreed. And there was this agreement, they said that let us do this, that we get independence. And let us be true to that one, it happened. A lot of injustice has been done to African people. So this is not the time again to open the Pandora box and start discussing. I agree with President Emerson. He has agreed. He has to compensate and the country has to go forward. You have clearly said the land which has already been taken cannot be given back. It cannot be undone. So what we need to do as a people want to take Africa forward, because Africa has got work to be done. And there's nobody who's going to do that work. It is us, my comrades from Zimbabwe. This is not the time to say your land was taken, this one was done. Yes, it was taken. But support your president to do this compensation, so that the sanctions which have been put to the people of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwean people have suffered too long, Dr. Masanga. And they are saying, please remove the need from our necks so that we breathe. Please let us see where the money will be gotten. These white farmers to be compensated, so that Zimbabwe moves forward, Dr. Masanga. I know there is, even in Kenya, you know there's a problem. There is a problem about land. It is Africa is the only continent, imagine where people come and take our resources, and then we sit down to negotiate. They took it by force. So there is no saying that we take it by force, but we want to say that we want to be men and women who take the work we agreed. If we have agreed on a compensation, let us compensate and we move forward. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor. You have made my day. It is only Africa where people come and take our shirts. Mm-hmm. Someone comes and says, take off the shirt, then we sit down and negotiate with the person who has taken your shirt and you are naked. You know, I have lived in Britain for 36 years. But you cannot go in Britain, rural, and build a 10-story building without the people asking you, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get your money? My compound in Britain had, those days, I love cars, good cars. Range Rover, Mercedes Benz, those are the type of cars I love. I want to give you a quick half a minute. I bought my cars with my money which I was working. I was not receiving any government social fund. So I saw good Mercedes I bought, I put in a compound. I saw a good Range Rover, I put in a compound. My neighbor, a white lady, a wife of a judge, whenever I leave my house in the morning, comes to ask my firstborn daughter, how does your father get this money to buy these cars? Look, it is my money that I have worked hard. I had my nightclub, I had a liquor shop, and I used to get an earning, huge money. So one morning I came back, I forgot something. Then I found this white lady on my door, knocking to go and see my daughter. So my daughter said, Daddy, today you have found her, she's here. She's the one asking me how you bought these cars. Me, I don't know. So I looked at the white lady, I said, is it a problem? Do I have anything? Do you see me getting social fund? I don't have any money that I get from government. This is my money. And these are my cars. These are my logbooks. You want one I can bring. The woman said, no. I came to check on these children. I said, you came to check on the children. You have become my child minder. Whenever I leave my compound, you sneak in my compound. Mom, please, I respect women. Can you just go back? So later on, when the husband, when the lady passed on, the daughters of this lady came and said, please, David, help us to look after Dad. Check on Dad every morning. Because the judge, my neighbor, the judge, is now left alone in a very big house in Surrey. Mawere knows where Surrey is. You can only buy a house there when you are worth. So the lady came and said, the daughter said, please look after our dad. I looked after this man. Then one day I asked, why was your mom used to come to us? I am not a thief. I'm a man who left Uganda so many years ago because of this and that. They were very sympathetic. So, Prof, you are right. It is only in Africa where someone comes to grab your thing, then he tells you, sit on the table, we talk. When he has grabbed your shirt, your trouser, you are everything, even your property. But in Britain, anything you do, they will ask you where you got it.
Oh, yes.
How you got it. So let's go. Who was coming next? Chabata?
Thank you, Doctor.
I believe you wanted to rejoin the Mawere. Mawere is yes.
Yeah, Mawere is a good brother of mine, Doctor. Thank you very much. Let me just, there was an important question that you had asked that we had not addressed that I think is very important for us to address. The government of Zimbabwe is not giving back land to the white people. No, that is a gospel that is being spread by the government's enemies. But the government has honored the agreements like the BIPA agreements. BIPA agreements are with other nations, with other countries. And some of these were done after independence. Therefore, during land reform, some of those farms were invaded. And they have to be, the government has to honor its own obligations. These were not taken by the settlers, but these were given by the government of the day, which is a black government. That's why they are honoring the BIPA farms, that they must be given back to those nations or those nationalities, because they were done in good faith with this government, the black government, the government of Comrade Mugabe. Then the next thing that they are saying is that the next thing that we need to look at is on the same issue is, why are they compensating? Why are they paying for these farms? No, the government is not paying for the farms. The government is paying for the developments that were made on the farm. It's not even the government that is paying. The payment is coming from organizations in Britain, organizations in America, and organizations all over. There is a team that is going to raise that money. It's not the government of Zimbabwe coming, taking from the taxpayer and paying for these farms. And also, the good thing about the government of Zimbabwe right now is that we are being led by a lawyer. And this man, when he came into power, people were saying, his enemies were saying, we shall see how he disrespects the law, how people are going to die. So far, they've been dumbfounded because he's respecting the law. At Lancaster House, it was agreed that we compensate improvement on the farms. This is the agreement that is doing right now. Then our own constitution, which was ratified, we ran the Lancaster House constitution until 2013. And we now have the People's Constitution. Our own people, over 90% voted or re-voted that compensation must be done. And it's in the Constitution of Zimbabwe that these improvements that were on the farms must be compensated. And that's only what they are doing. So we want to unnerve some of our friends all over that were saying the government of Zimbabwe is now paying for the land. No, the government is not paying for the land. Two, that the government of Zimbabwe is returning land to the white people. No, they are not returning land to the white people. If there are any white people who were born in Zimbabwe, who are Zimbabwean citizens, they are being encouraged to go to land's office, apply for land, and if the opportunity comes, they will be allocated. They are just as Zimbabweans like anybody else. But we didn't want this advantage that they had, that they took our land without even consultations and compensation, and they had all these vast tracts of land. And whilst our own people ourselves did not have land. My friends, I represent Africa Diaspora Development Institute in SADC. I'm their representative. When I go to some of my country friends, I see the poverty of wealth that can be found on the land that is lying all around. If people in Zimbabwe right now are as happy as they can be. We know that they are suffering right now economically because of this brave and bold decisions they took to get back their land. But if you don't have your land and you don't have therefore you don't have the means of the economy, you continue to be employees. Those on the farms right now, they have somewhere they can begin from. Yes, they need to be empowered. We know that they can't do anything right now because of sanctions, and they don't have the banks that can give them money to have development on the farms. Our request to our friends is that if we can't get money from Britain, if we can't get money for farming from Europe, we should be able to get money from Kenya. We know there are Kenyans who have banks. We know there are South Africans who have banks. We know that that's what we need right now. And in mining, I had the issue of mining. Mining right now, if you want to see any Zimbabweans that are doing great things right now, they are being called makorokozas, or people who go and dig with using primitive ways of mining. But they now have, they are the richest, they are becoming the richest Africans in Africa. So the land reform in Zimbabwe has worked wonders. Does it need improvement? Oh yes, it does need improvement. Do we need some help? Oh yes, we need some help. Maybe Dr. Matsanga, we now need a second Lancaster House. The first Lancaster House was when we were disadvantaged. We didn't have the land. Now the second Lancaster House should be for sanctions now. Since we now have our land, we need another Lancaster House where we can now go and negotiate it again in Britain and now talk about sanctions. No more the land. The land, we have it. And it will never go back again.
Very well.
Okay, thank you very much. Very well. Now that is the thing that has been confusing all of us. I believe on the outside here, there are many Kenyans watching. There are many Kenyans who own banks. There are many Kenyans who want to do business in in Zimbabwe. There are many Kenyans who want to invest to help to generate this capital that you are looking for. They want that assurance. That's why we bring this program on board. We want to do business in Zimbabwe. We want to do business. We want to encourage. We want to give you the facilities of credit lines. So many businessmen in Kenya. The economy is stable. It's the hub of East Africa. We need to work together as brothers and sisters. So let me have Karen. Is it Karen or Nyon? Nyon.
You want to start with Karen?
Yes, let's go with Karen.
Please.
Karen from the coast of Kenya near Indian Ocean. She's feeling the ocean right now. Tell us more. You have listened to the elders, to the young generation, the old Saxon has talked. You are a young youth in Kenya. What is your view on the land issue? Being a person from the coast of the Kenyan Republic, where land issue is very emotive. Talk to us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matanga. I agree totally with what the panelists have said. And from Kenya, I think we have the same thing. We have issues of
yes. Use the audio.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Matanga. So I was saying that the issue on land inequality is everywhere, even in Kenya, even where I am to be specific. But it's time for us to know that we cannot, it's time for us to forgive whatever it is that we've gone through, whatever it is that we've come across this whole time. Forgive ourselves, forgive those who've wronged us in some way. But what I know is, and I'm glad that one of the panelists just brought it up, that the compensation will not be from the taxes. I think this is something that it has come out so clear that from the
Yes, Karen, with the ocean. Yes.
So I'm glad that it has come out so clear that the
ocean currents are doing away with our correspondent on the coastal town of Malindi. Let's have Nyoni. You have seen, it's the same question. Chabata has clarified something that was missing among us, and Abigail Saxon and others when we are looking at this topic.
Okay, Dr. Matanga, in the interest of time, I'd like to thank you for this platform that you've created, but also just to share that there might be some people who want to follow up some of the issues. Actually, the current topic is very hot in the sense that like only exactly 24 hours ago, there was another webinar which had been hosted here in Zimbabwe about what does this global compensation mean. And so there are quite a sort of some write-ups that were done on that. And if I found somewhere where I could send it to you and you can forward it to others, that would be good.
Yeah,
but I can also refer you.
Give it to Saxon.
If he gives me contact details, I'll certainly do that.
My contact details are very well known. Can I give them to you?
Yes,
I am a man who doesn't fear any imperialist. This is the number.
Please send me those. I'll also forward the material that we have.
Yes, I have your number now. I'll send you on WhatsApp. Then you production team behind the scenes send his number to me. I send it to him right now. Yes.
So, what I want to add also was there was an article in Al Jazeera about 2 weeks ago, exactly by a T marker, which was also talking about the history of the land and to date. one of the things that have come is, right, you see, we can treat land as an academic subject, but it's also highly emotive and things that get really personal. I've been dealing with the land issues for the last 30 years, having been a civil servant, rising to a chief planning officer in land affairs, but also alongside such erstwhile colleagues like the late Professor Sam Moyo and Professor Rukuni. We are dealing with these issues, not only in Zimbabwe, but in the whole of Southern Africa. So some of these contributions that people are making here are very relevant. But let me just highlight some of the things that you spoken about yesterday at our webinar about compensation. You see, the compensation issue is not something that only affects white farmers. One lady, Dr. Gaina Paradza, just reminded us that there has been need for compensating people that have been moved. Just like Saxon said something about there are people being moved from one place to the other. We have, if you look the map of Zimbabwe and Zambia, there's the Great Kariba Lake. When that was formed, a lot of people were displaced. The Tonga people who reside on both sides of the lake have never been compensated. And when we talk about these issues, no one really brings them to the fore. Recently, we also had another dam being done in the southeast, in the Lowveld, where that was done. Tokwe Mukosi, a number of people were displaced and they are living in dire straits. They've not been compensated. And the same thing with an ethanol project in Chisumbanje. People are still crying out foul. But as Chabata will probably remember, being a war vet, other war vets in the Zipra formation who bought their own farms at the turn of independence had these confiscated by government, and some of them now have been, they've never been compensated, like Nijo farm just outside Harare. So those issues really open up a whole Pandora's box to say that the issue of compensation should not be a sectoral thing, but should be broadened up, involve war vets, involve parliament, involve civil society to say what exactly is needed. Also, when you do the compensation, take into focus the current mood in the world. I have a feeling that the compensation as far as white thing might have been done to say we want to affect the sanctions debate. I'm not quite sure whether we've won on that one, because suddenly the goalposts have been shifted. The guys are probably moving into something else. You might have done the compensation thing, but your human rights record is not good. So some guy somewhere else is going to be ticking the box for you. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be very mindful about what environment that you're dealing with. Right now, somebody's been talking about the whole focus of the BLM, Black Lives Matter thing. You've seen how it has been going on in Europe about saying, yes, all these monies that were derived from slavery should really be questioned. Roads must fall and stuff like that. So in our debate, we really need to be broad. And somebody says, you in East Africa, like Kenya, is talking about reparations to all those things that happen on the land issues. The Caribbean is talking about the same thing. The Namibians, the Hereros have sued the Germans to say, you guys, you did all these atrocities, we need reparation. So the subject matter is really broad. So the same thing like Mutumo Mawere was talking about, his lands that were under FSI have not been compensated. That too is part of the potpourri that needs to be brought into the discussion about compensation. I'll stop there for the moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nyoni. My address is africastrategy@hotmail.com.
Okay.
africastrategy@hotmail.com.
Okay.
I will get all the documents. I will answer you. You leave your phone number. I have it already here. Okay. All lowercase africastrategy@hotmail.com.
Good.
I am the only one who sees it.
All right.
I don't. Yes, that's the only one. Even hackers have found it difficult to find it.
Okay, asante sana.
We are dealing with so many people, but the number I will get it from the, because you have come in. We shall get you. I've already got your number.
Okay.
So I will call you. You want to sign out, or you want to wait for one other person.
I want to hear what the others are saying. It's very useful because part of my job listening to this issue.
So that you can take it back to His Excellency and tell him this is exactly what people are feeling. Even in Mawere, this is a very big thing for me to listen to Mawere today. After so many years, almost 25 years Mawere, we have not been seeing each other. Yes, I'm very shocked. So it's a miracle for me. Thank you. Now, Sean Wesonga, Daniel, you are an investigative journalist.
Yes.
You work for Pantera in Africa TV.
Yes.
You have investigated cases of land in Kenya.
Yes.
I've seen the situation of Zimbabwe summarized by the Zimbabweans themselves. What is your view? And how do you want Kenyans to be involved in propping up the economy of people of Zimbabwe?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And of course, the issue of land is an indelible dent on the conscience of the African people, not only here in Kenya, but across Africa in Zimbabwe. And here in Kenya, essentially, we know that we still have the issue of squatters, which resulted from the white settlers who came back in the early 1901 and took the white highlands, where the riches of the lands in this country were rested, and they were able to push these people out of their own lands and occupy these massive tracts of land. And that caused that crisis that we have here in Kenya. And therefore, when you look at the issue of Zimbabwe, this is an issue where the people of Zimbabwe are trying to be able to make peace with their past and be able to reclaim what truthfully belongs to them. And there can be no progress in our country, my fellow panelists, if we don't make peace with the past. If these people who are displaced from their land do not get what is rightfully theirs. And here in Kenya, we've seen that even when we had the post-election violence in 2008, 2007, and people were displaced from their land, where we had a committee of experts where we had reconciliation and where people were resettled back to their properties. And I'll give an example. If we had a quarrel with my neighbor, and in the course of the quarrel, the neighbor came and took my cattle, there is no point in the talks of reconciliation where he can be able to come and shake hands if the neighbor is still milking the cow that he took from my homestead when we had a disagreement. And therefore, there was a need for the people of Zimbabwe to get back their land, because these white settlers who came in Zimbabwe, they never paid a penny for that piece of land. And as one of the comrades has said there, that these were parcels of land which were issued out with an illegal system that was there in Rhodesia, and therefore it was not recognized by even the British government itself, and therefore it remains to be an illegal allocation of land, and therefore the people who are entitled to this land are the people who are the natives of Zimbabwe. And therefore, when we talk about the land issue in Zimbabwe, we have to put aside the questions of compensation, because rightfully this land belongs to the people of Zimbabwe. And going forward now, it depends on the people of Zimbabwe to make sure that they derive the optimum productivity from the land going forward. But when we talk about compensating the white settlers in Zimbabwe, then I think we shall be missing the point. That is my take, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much. You agree entirely that what Chapata and Mr. Nyoni have just said, the compensation aspect is to put back what was back. In conflict resolution, which Professor Onyari on his other end teaches, and which I teach and studied, I want to tell you people that 35 years ago, when my government was overthrown in a military junta by my own generals, our own generals came on walkie-talkie and said, we are only 40 miles to enter Kampala. But we would like you, because you and us were together in Tanzania. We suffered together when Idi Amin was killing us. We want you to leave the capital quietly. Now, people on this panel, there must be some sense of humor. These are our generals. General Tito Okero told us. He told us with Dr. Milton Obote and us, I was the PA for His Excellency President Milton Obote, whom you call briefcase handler, running everywhere, errands. If I see the president's suit is not well ironed, I say, this one, don't wear it today. My dear people on the panel, we left with one shirt because you couldn't go home to change. One pair of shoes, one pair of everything, and one for me. I had a small briefcase which I have kept as a souvenir up to today. So 6 months later, the same generals who gave us time, they even relaxed, they started eating food to wait for us to leave the capital. I remember my late president did not want to leave. I don't want to tell you what we did to him, but we did something to take him away, because he said he's not leaving Uganda anymore. He said, Mr. President, these guys are telling us they will shell us after 2 hours. They will start shelling the State House. Let's leave. He wanted to leave, to refuse. Luckily enough, our medical doctor and a great friend of President Milton Obote, we did some things. Then we left. We arrived in Kenya. We are received. The story that I want to tell you will make you have even more tears. Guess, the people who overthrew us, they only lasted for 6 months in power. They were also overthrown. And you know the route they used? The same route to follow us. I'm giving this story to Mawele so that you can know how reconciliation is very, very important. Now, when these guys found us in Nairobi, some of them feared to even approach us. But some of us, like me, I took one stand. I helped most of them to register as refugees. Today, some of them are in Canada, in US, in UK. When they find me on the street, they say, you have forgiven us. Yes, I told them, don't run away. We were all comrades in Tanzania in 78, in Nachingwea, in Tabora, in Ruvuma, in those camps. So there was no need of me leaving you not to register as a refugee to be taken to Canada. Some of them cannot believe it. They take flight to come to London for Christmas to see me. Am I still the same man? To forgive them. So forgiveness and moving on is what Professor said and what my investigative journalist of Punchline has said. I'm teaching this to my great friend, Mawele. Forgive and move on. I did not know that one day I would shake hands with President Museveni like this. Because for 23 years, I'd refused to shake my hand. And whenever he could come anywhere, I could fly everywhere. In Harare, it happened. In Chapata North, whenever he could come, was President Museveni, Mugabe invites him, I fly out to avoid him. But one day, the world came together and said, you must do peace talks. They put pressure on us. I swear in the name of God, the first time I refused the hand, in the presence of BBC, you can check those clips. The man was very annoyed why I did not shake his hand. He said he's not leaving the capital city, Juba, until I shake his hand. He went and booked a hotel there and put his army there to stay. I'm waiting for him to shake my hand. President Salva Kiir, Chisano, Chikwete, all of these people, Riaka Machar, they came to my hotel. They told me, please, just do a honorable thing to shake the hand. I said, I'm not going to shake it at night. I want all journalists to come worldwide. Then we shake the hand. But one, I want him to give me a file. There is a file I'm looking for. And he gave it to me. He brought it to the negotiating table. So you see, this is a man who did not want to talk to us. But here he has been brought. We had to forget the past, and I shook his hand. From that day, 2008, Uganda has been peaceful. But Uganda lacks only some democratic dispensation. That's all. But in peace, nobody beats a Ugandan. They are all in one country. I am not the one to provide the people what their daily needs are, because Uganda is not a communist state. It's a state of a capitalist where you work hard to get a living. So for me, I said, two bulls cannot live in one crowd. And let me do my things internationally, and that's the end. So Mawere, that is how all of us have lost houses. There's a house which is occupied for 35 years, my house, without one single rent. And they have occupied it. They even say we are even occupying. So Mawere, don't cry. Help this country to remove sanctions. Mm-hmm. The people in power today, I know you are well connected with the United States of America. Help Emerson to remove sanctions. Emerson is your relative. Where? Shaman, is your relative. Don't tell me that you want to have this. Don't tell me you want to have this thing of don't behave like a Kasikwere and this other stupid people. Pick up a briefcase and go and talk to Emerson. If you want, I will do it for you. I will take you there. Stop it. Don't stay in exile. No. Don't join these bad groups. Hear me today. Mm-hmm. You used to tell me and I used to hear in Sheraton Hotel. Now today I'm also telling you today. Listen to me. Forget, forgive. Help Emerson to govern this country. Your relatives. Shaman.
Right.
No. And I'm an African leader. I cannot leave you to be mourning like that. You see, you still have that wound of your farm was taken. Pick up courage and come and we go. You solve it. Look at me. I don't need anything from President Museveni. When he comes in AU, I'm also seated in AU. We are on a professional level. When he comes to Nairobi, I'm in Nairobi. When he comes to London, I'm in London doing my things. I don't want to know what he does, but we shook hands. I've forgiven. I want you to take hands, and the forgiveness is the most important thing, Mawere. You are my brother forever, and I will not leave you. I've got you this chance. Don't go down in the 6 feet when you have not reconciled with your brother.
Wise doctor.
Yes, I am not going to keep quiet. And I am from here. I will pick a phone and call him if he has no. Is he the one refusing reconciliation? Or it is you? Don't join Kasukwere. Don't join Kasukwere. Kasukwere, we are about to get you. Don't. Kasukwere is a younger boy who cannot even cock a gun. He thinks he can manage us. He can manage us. Mnangagwa is not only with Zimbabweans. He has friends. That Kasukwere Shamari, we are going to get him very soon. Very soon. He doesn't know what a battle is. What he did. You see, these boys play with Emerson. But they haven't played with the real fire like us. Iowa. Don't play. Don't bring it. You don't even join them. You just seek what is good for your children. Your children need something. If it was taken out and very badly, get it now. Talk to your brother. He's your relative. Don't tell us a lie. You are relatives. Yeah.
Doctor, I have a question.
I'm ready to take you there. That Corona is going down. I'm coming for you to go. I want to see a handshake. We did a handshake in Kenya. Raila Odinga wanted to finish Uhuru Kenyatta. Some of us here, we worked and we got the handshake. Do you see Raila Odinga making a noise? Wow, where? Finished. Is Kenya not moving on? Kenya is moving on. Zimbabweans don't need that now. They need food. Zimbabweans need food, need the economy. But whether you are an economist, a very good economist who would help Mnangagwa, you have left him Mafikizolos to help him. Why don't you help him in economy instead of undermining? Oh, Shaman, today I've got you. I didn't know you were coming. I'm happy, and I know you are taking notes. You are very good at debating. And you remember I told you about Chiangwa at that Sheraton restaurant. I said, who is this guy? He looks every time. Now today you are telling me, did you remember what I told you? So these are some of the things they should not make you worried. Just come out of this mess. Forgive, forget, reconcile, heal. Zimbabwe is your country. Zimbabwe is your country. You should not be staying there. I can see where you are staying. There's darkness behind. Where is this country where there's darkness? There's light in Africa every time. Reconcile, reconciliation. And today, since you have come, and God sent you to come on my show, I'm taking your matter personal. And I will make sure that I find out why you are not able to reconcile now. I want to thank you so much.
Doctor, before he leaves, before I'd like to ask.
You're not leaving.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question.
You have not asked him a question.
Yes, I'd like to ask him and also Philip. Philip, there. I have a question for Mutuma. and Philip. So we've seen, the President Mnangagwa's administration, trying to depart from the approach perhaps the former president, now late Mugabe, did in terms of acquiring this land, which was met with a lot of criticism internationally, and we saw, the impact of that, and we know what happened after that. So with this new approach by President Mnangagwa, do you think perhaps things could be better in terms of the land reforms compared to what Mugabe did there before?
That this is a question to
Mutuma, yes, because when he was talking, he raised issues with the structural challenges, that the land reforms is seen to have, the challenges, that the structural challenges in terms of the acquiring of the land and the redistribution. It was not done in a way that there were structures in place to ensure that was done effectively. So he's raised issues with that. But now the new approach President Mnangagwa has taken, just a small departure from the late President Mugabe, who started these land reforms. Are there hope that things perhaps could be better from his perspective?
Mutuma, you can answer. I think my presenter has been she's very intelligent, you people. She picked that question. It's a very good question. Mutuma, are you there, sir? Unmute your, and we hear you.
Is he there? Because he's the one who brought about, his victim. So, yes. For Chabata, I have a different question, for him. As we wait for perhaps Mutuma to come on board and answer that, because he expressed he's been affected by that land reform. So I wanted to hear. Yes. So yes.
Land is not an object.
Yes. I really. Yes.
We raised some points there.
Absolutely, and highlighted the structural challenges. I wanted to know if at all, from his perspective, if at all, the way President Mnangagwa is now doing things, if that will change anything at all. But for Philip Chabata, if I'm not wrong, now, of course, President Mnangagwa has been trying to, the other day, he announced in June that the government will be, compensating, aiming to pay an annual $5.3 million to the farmers this year for improvements on the land only, and I think you've highlighted that, and not the land itself. So, but the white farmers are holding out for at least $11.4 billion as a fair value for the land and the property seized from them. Now, the variance in the figures of what the government has committed to pay and the white farmers expect to be paid arises from the fact that compensation figures is still being computed by the two parties on an agreed method of valuation. And we know a lot of this thing is coming out. The land reform policy is widely viewed as a move or an attempt by President Mnangagwa's regime to win the international support needed to set the country on the right path for recovery. Do you think President Mnangagwa's government will be able to appease the powers that be with his new move to facilitate some payments to these farmers?
Sure. Let's look at what the white farmers wanted. They wanted 11 point something B, compensation for land and improvements. Remember, we said we will not pay for land. Land is our land. It was not. We cannot pay for what is ours, which was stolen from us. But improvements that were supposed to be paid for is what was going to be paid for. And if we again, that was the reason I was glad Maita Kawarasha kind of came in and gave the background of the Longest House Constitution. That's where the agreement was for payment on improvements of the farms, And it was going to be done by Britain, America, and its allies. And that was agreed at Longest House. Zimbabwe is an orderly people. I want you to realize that even the land reform, which is now being called chaotic, and I know many people have ascribed it to President Mugabe to say that what he did. President Mugabe was against land reform, these invasions in year 2000 when they started. Actually, they sent 2 police people that went into those farms. A record would be that they did not come back alive. And they tried to send the army until the then General Navashi refused to send the army, saying that the people that are on the farms are armed, and they are part of them. They were army people, some of them, they were war veterans, and he didn't want to have the Zimbabweans fight against themselves. Therefore, what President Mnangagwa is doing is putting order into what's supposedly unorderly. We wanted our land. There was no better way of doing it. Some of you will recall that in 1999, there was a referendum whereby first they wanted to change the constitution so that the government would be empowered to take the land. But in the referendum, the white farmers mobilized so many people, and the referendum failed, and we did not pass. So what happened then is that's when the war veterans started going into farms, disregarding the government and disregarding what had been agreed. So it is within this government that they want to put order. We want order. All of us, we want order. We have order in our houses. We want order in our farms. We want order in our country. And as I said, President Mnangagwa is a legal person. He's a lawyer. So he's adhering to the Longest House Constitution agreement, and he also is respecting the constitution of the country, which says there must be compensation for the white farmers. But they cannot determine, just come up with 11 billion. Right now, there's been an agreement of 3.5. They signed, the white farmers signed for 3.5, which means we came to an agreement, to a consensus from 500 to 3.5 billion. But where is the money coming from? President again last week announced that there's a team that has been set to go and raise the money overseas. And it's going to come from Britain. If some of it will come from Zimbabwe, hallelujah. But much of it is going to come from these countries that have made and organizations that have decided to make things right. I know I would want to have Tony Blair engaged because he can be a very important key in lifting sanctions. We don't mind keeping the sanctions if they want to keep the sanctions, but we just want to order and we want to do things peacefully. Let the world judge. Zimbabwe can go on even with sanctions on if we just organize ourselves. There are a number of things that we need to deal with, the corruption part of things, and to do things orderly and make sure and make decisions to say this is for the national interest. Such kind of situations, such kind of things.
All right, very well.
Thank you very much. Miriam, do you have any questions? Abigail, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for having taken part in this discussion. More discussions will be coming, more interviews will be conducted, but I want to give each of you a half a minute, strictly. If starting from Mr. Mangaza to say farewell, bye-bye to our show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matanga, for this show. It was an eye-opener to all of us. And I am sure, as we said before, that I think we've agreed that the land reform program in Zimbabwe is irreversible. All we have to do is to make sure that we have got to use our land productively. If there are any bones of contention, it is important for people to sit down and discuss any issues which we feel that they have to be ironed out, so that at least any hiccups which might be there will be ironed out for the benefit of the people of Zimbabwe.
Thank you. Munyarazi, you have appeared. Can you say your final word, Munyarazi? I know you are a silent listener from the background. Say your whatever. If we have done mistakes, tell us now. You are our rapporteur.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. And I think this is very eye-opening, and it's good to have such discussions and to get people to talk and understand and discuss progress and discuss solutions and not just problems. And I admire what you're doing, Doctor. I'm a new fan. I only met you today now, and I'm a fan, and I'm going to definitely follow you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We wanted to give you a chance to say you have even a very good voice that could have brought a lot of flavor. Ladies first. Mercy, without showing your mercy.
Oh, we need some mercy now. All right.
Please, we need some mercy. Can you say something before? Please, if you are there.
Yes, I'm here. It was an interesting discussion for me to participate in. I'm in a peace building field, and it's very interesting to get to listen and get to know that if we really have to build peace amongst the people that are conflicting, it's important to know who needs to talk to who and about what and why. So it is very important to get to know the different views that have been shared here and to understand what the real issues are, and to also, come up with some kind of interesting program that it can be done in order for people to achieve the peace. Because I have heard people talk about forgiveness, and it takes a lot of steps for people to reach to that forgiveness. It's not something that just happens automatically. So it's important to get to hear what people have to say.
Thank you very much, Madam. That voice, I wish you came on our screen. We can see the real Shona voice, or whether Shona or the very short voice. We need it on the screen. Next time, show your face. But good, thank you very much for your contribution.
Let me just show my face even when I'm not talking.
Yes, so that we see you. When we find you in the streets of Harare, we shall not, miss you. Yeah, we have seen it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Yes, so I'll remove my mask because I'm around other people and...
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome, welcome for your views.
Absolutely.
And this is a great show. You can see my friend Mutuma Mawere. And you have said something. It takes time to build forgiveness. I am now carrying Mutuma Mawere. I'll get his hand and say, where did we go wrong? Please come and we go. Thank you for the contribution, Madam. Absolutely. Next time, remember each week we have a show. So they will confirm to you which show is coming next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Philip. Philip, you have just a minute.
Thank you, Dr. Matanga, and we would want to appreciate what we are doing for Africa. You really have been a champion for our causes in Africa, especially Zimbabweans at this hour. We are so grateful for how you are highlighting and also helping others understand where we are coming from and where we are going, and especially debunking the mystery on the land issue. I think many people, when they listen, join your conversations, they come back, they come out enlightened, and some of the questions they would have, I hope from here, we have answered one or two questions that have been on people's minds. Remember, you have done so much, and we really appreciate that Punchline TV continues to broadcast and continues to bring up the best and the truth that is in Africa. Africa is a rich continent, and we can do it on our own. I think within the next 5-10 years, our population is going to be almost close to that of China. So we have the resources that no other continent has. We have the brains that no other continent has. So what we need to do now is to organize ourselves and to work together and to win.
Thank you. Mrs. Takavarasha. Before I come to Mr. Tabakarasha, ladies first.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I think what I picked most is the issue on forgiveness, that we need to forgive each other and we need to move forward for the sake of the future generations to come. We need to get rid of all the hurts that we have, nurse our wounds, and be very courageous in leaving everything behind and move forward for the betterment of our country.
Thank you very much, Madam. Mr. Will Takavarasha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matanga. This show has been very, very exciting. I think I've benefited quite a lot. And as from the side of the miners, we of course, we are kind of apolitical, but being affected by the political events. What we need is what we are anticipating is we are quite optimistic with whatever the government is actually doing, that it may not affect, or it can be for the better of the miners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And all Kenyan miners, we shall tell them to contact you. There are so many people who want to do a lot of business in mining, in fact, exporting your minerals. Please, we shall contact. They will contact you. They are watching in the background. Yes. Next is Saxon, my brother.
Okay. The show has been really enlightening. It is true that Africa needs to have its solution, needs to take care of, take ownership of its own resources. Is that the only thing that can develop it? It's Africa for Africans, and we need to have African peace resolution mechanisms. Thank you.
Oh, Africa peace. Professor, you have got a student here. You have got another man talking about the same language of forgiveness.
Yes.
Of Matanga. Now, Abigail, you deal with human rights.
Thank you.
There are some
Thank
people
you
in Zimbabwe very much. So tell us more. Yes.
Thank you so very much. What I can say in conclusion is that our land is our God-given right. It is our identity. It is our dignity. So nothing can separate us from who we are, because our land is our identity. It's our dignity. So in parting again, I want to reiterate the point that the issue of land compensation, that is taking waves these days, is actually a constitutional issue, a constitutional demand that we put in terms of Section 295 of our Constitution. What the government is doing now is to simply implement what the masses spoke, what the masses said they want in terms of the new Constitution. Of 2013, both combined the ruling party and the opposition concurred. So any other distortion that wants to take precedence now should be ignored in the very same context that such deserves. So as Zimbabweans, as the people, we must be proud that we have our identity, we have our lands. It's the time to find each other and focus. And of course, I borrow the narrative. Thank you, Dr. Matanga. I knew very well that having Mr. Mawere on the panel, I know very much his grievances. He has repeated that in so many of the forums, but you are coming with a new way to say forgive. And I'm beginning also to think that this is the narrative, this is the way to go. Forgive, find each other. You are our elders. You have seen it all. We want to follow the very same path. So I also send the very same sentiments to Mr. Mawere. I thank you.
Thank you.
That finishes the list of our guests. Now we come to Mr. Mawere. You have heard your fellow Zimbabweans and many Africans from Kenya. You have heard from me, who has even suffered more injuries. I've never seen the grave of my father, yet he was buried. And he keeps on coming in the spirit every time when I sleep. But I'm now healed. Mawere, are you there? Stand it. and summarize this academically for us, intellectually, without touching your personal issues, if you don't want. As an academic. Thank you. Mr. Mawere.
I think he left the conversation.
Seem to be, he will talk to me later.
Okay.
And telling me it is very difficult, as the other lady said, it takes time to build the relationship for a decision to be taken. So we shall take time to build the relationship. Then later on, we shall arrive to a conclusion. Professor Nyali, last word.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga. The only word that I need to say is that the teeth and the tongue, they have learned to live together. Many times, the teeth fight the tongue. That's how life is. In this channel of life, we correct with our people, but we should learn to coexist with each other. We are peace and conflict expert, people who prefer peace, and if you want to move forward in life, and better days are always in the future, we think of reconciliation. I want to end by saying, every voice matters. That what we only need to do in Africa is to be civil to one another. 1.2 billion African people, 1.2 solutions. Every voice, every person in Africa has got a solution to take Africa forward, if only we learn to be civil to each other.
Thank you. Karen from the coast, the teacher turned journalist correspondent from the coast, Malindi. Karen.
Yes, Doctor.
1 minute. Always tell us the key. Tell us our key points. Cap. Yes.
Okay, I will just summarize the whole thing, what you've been saying. And forgiveness is the way to go. We're saying no to vengeance. And the only way to progress is by reconciliation. We've seen it work. You've mentioned the handshake here in Kenya. We have seen it work. So that is the way to go for Africa, Dr.
Oh, okay. Reconciliation moving forward. Daniel.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Masanga. And of course, I've listened to Comrade from Zimbabwe, and we all know that Zimbabwe spent its earliest years of independence really fighting to enable its neighbors in the south to gain independence, those who are still under the colonial rule. And that is the spirit that we should cultivate as Africa. And here from Nairobi, Kenya, I want to assure our comrades that Kenyans stand with them in their struggle to get off the sanctions, in their struggle to restructure their land reforms and be able to gain prosperity as a country. So here from Mazi in Kenya, we do stand with you, and we do wish you all the best and in your endeavors and in your quest to put Zimbabwe on the right tracks.
Thank you very much, Sean, our investigative journalist from Nairobi. Now, finally, I come to Madam Miriam, just to give us some few words of wisdom, which we might have left out in our discussion.
Maybe just a recap. I think.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Our panelists, yes, they did.
And also the way you see Zimbabwe, what next? What way forward on the land reform? Now we have listened to Chibata, we have listened to Madada, we have listened to Mama Masia, Mama Takavaras, we have listened to Munyarazi, we have listened to Mawere, we have listened to Mudiwa Takavarasha, we have listened to Saxon Abigail, we have listened to all of them. Now we have picked the sense of this conversation, which was making the government, even here, get worried about. What is this conversation again? You know, Kenya is a Pan-African station. Kenya is a hotbed of Pan-Africanism. Remember, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was very instrumental in Pan-Africanism. So people were beginning to say, hey, what is going on here? But we have now got it. Miriam, just speak us Give us
Yeah,
final
the key points that perhaps have stood out in today's conversation, and we know Zimbabwe is not the only country in the continent that is dealing with this land reforms. You see, South Africa is still, thinking about it, has started it, but not quite, because it's something that is quite delicate, and it has a lot of repercussions, so they don't even know how to go about it. But they're thinking of their own land reforms. Also, there in Namibia, we saw President Ken Gob the other day saying, you know what, we cannot have 16% of the population holding about 6% of the population having about 87% of the land, and that is Germans and other white settlers in Namibia. So it is something that a lot of countries in Africa is dealing with. So Zimbabwe is not doing something out of order, and I think a lot of this land was taken by force from the natives, and that is something that the late President Mugabe kept saying time and time again. We cannot. How do you tell us not to take something that was we are just getting back what was stolen from the people there in Zimbabwe? But what has stood out in today's conversation there, Wellington started by, of course, highlighting the conflicts there that is between the miners and the farmers. And indeed, he said a majority of the indigenous people there have so far benefited from these land reforms. And also Philip came in and, made it clear that it's not the government that is going to be paying for these farms. And also it's not the land that is going to be paid for. It is for, any development that has been made in the land that the government is going to compensate. So he made that clear for us. And also Mutuma Mawere, I think, really exposed the underbelly of the structural challenges that these land reforms has been going through there. Something I think that the government of Zimbabwe needs to really take heed, because I'm sure it's not just him. There has to be others also who are this demographic that has been left out in terms of these land reforms. So I think that is something that the government of Zimbabwe needs to look into and see some of the people that perhaps have been affected by these reforms and how they can address those issues there. And Abigail talked about the unfairness to talk about the land reforms. Now that the land is being returned to the original owners, and so the land, when it was being taken, the Zimbabweans, they were not consulted. So she does not understand why is it now that the Zimbabweans have their land back, and now we have to talk. A lot of things have taken up there, and also Mrs. Takavarasha, I think, reiterated the importance of forgiveness, and I think that has come out. But Doctor, as you keep saying here, forgiveness can happen, but the injustices and all of that, it has to be dealt with. Otherwise, it will be on the surface. So I think that in a nutshell, that is what we've talked about today.
Thank you very much, Miriam. There is one thing that I want to summarize. One, and let the panel people, let me remove the glasses so that they can see my face clearly. Whatever we have said today summarizes in 2 words: redemption strategy. That's all. Kwisha. Kwisha. I don't know how you say it in Shona. Somebody in Shona, a redemption strategy. Finished. In Shona, what? Chabata. Chabata, what did you say in Shona? Redemption. A redemption strategy. You need, I am telling you, if you don't do that, all of you are coming back here after 1 year and you tell me the same thing. You need a redemption strategy. What is a redemption strategy? 1, truth telling, accountability. Let me start slowly. Truth telling, accountability, restitution, reparation, reconciliation, and finally, Finally, there's a great word called healing. 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 You all need your country. You all need your country. Even those in MDC, they need that country. Even if they take over power today, you think they can change it to come walking like a queen in miracles? No. They would have to go through these two words in order to govern that Zimbabwe. Redemption strategy. Where you can...
Yeah. Urongwa ukuzidzikinura.
Aha!
Urongwa ukuzidzikinura.
Where you find forgiveness, where you find reconciliation, where you find restitution. President Mnangagwa talks of restitution, bringing back. We have been mourning too many times about sanctions. Why can't we beat the sanctions? Are you hearing me, people? Why can't we beat the sanctions? We have been mourning too much sanctions. Why can't we beat them? Why can't you trade with Kenya? That's another way of beating sanctions. Why can't you carry all these goods from the Kenyan factories, pour them in your shops, in your supermarket, sell it to the price to your people? Don't mourn, lament. Don't become a book of lamentations. Oh, Washaman. No book of lamentation. Oh. Even Chamisa walks, he wants to fall. He has grown very thin because he's lamenting. Oh, election. Oh, no. Election passed. Organize your party again. 2023 is here. You think it is very far. It is coming here 3 years from now. You might be found lamenting. And the ZANU-PF will beat you again. Organize yourself. Be like a messenger. I want to tell you as we close, Besigye wanted to stand again this year. Next year, I called him by this phone here. I said, don't try. We have done our best. We have brought peace. Don't try. Allow them. Can you do a scientific election? In fact, in Zimbabwe, you can do a scientific election. Because all Zimbabweans have got a metallic ID. I have seen all of you with metallic. You are the only people with metallic IDs in Africa. With metal. Am I wrong, Magaza?
You are correct, though we have changed.
With metallic ID, you are the only people who have data. Where data is kept in a data bank. The rest of Africa, nothing. Nothing. So you can't do a scientific election for shaman. You people can do a scientific election because everybody will come to register, you know where he is. So I told Besigye, don't stand for these elections. Leave the younger people, let them try to do, we shall be advisors. And they agreed with me. So that is what it is, Mawere. Time comes when you forgive. Redemption strategy is the only way forward. Reconciliation, forgiveness. Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta could not see eye to eye. We could even burn the whole building down because Raila is in the building. But now, in Kenya, are we not even having it? Is it on the COVID-19 coronavirus, which has brought us chaos? Otherwise, we are doing very well. We meet and shake hands. both sides sit together. So as you think about the land program, how to make your land useful for you people, and how to clear the past by giving those who make noise what they want. Then let's see where the noise will come from. Let's see where Katie Hoy, that loud-mouthed woman from Vauxhall in London, me, I don't have good words for them. What can they do? What? What can they do to me? What can Katie Hoy do to me? What? I am even very senior in the Labour Party. I'm a senior in the Labour Party of London. What can she do? I can't tell her to sit down, shush. Yes. So that's the struggle we have taken. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Takavarasha, Munyarazi, you are the silent listener, and Madame Mercy, Abigail, and everybody. My Saxon has gone off already. Abigail, the rest of you, thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Africa. Let's have many of these next week. Chapata, I am still strong. I can lecture for hours and hours. Yes, there is still a lion in East Africa roaring for Pan-Africanism. Mugabe is gone down, but I have remained strong. I still stand for Africa. Yes, I still support, and I will support Emerson up to the end. ED has been my friend for 21 years. I want to leave him in the middle of a nation. I will not leave him in the middle of sharks crossing over River Zambezi. No, I will get him on the other side by standing by him and by talking like this, you people. Whether you are in which party or whatever party, you will finish your anger. Yes. And Zimbabwe will rise and shine again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tatenda, tatenda, tatenda. Tatenda.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.